Tonight, the new wave of violence in Iraq worsens, but the Prime Minister vows no retreat in the battle against Shiite militias. And the State Department orders all U.S. diplomats in Baghdad to take cover. I'm Harry Smith. Also tonight, one-on-one with Barack Obama.
As soon as the nominee is determined, whether that is 2 weeks from now or in early June, that there will be some bruised feelings. People are going to have to patch things together.
And the FDA investigates a possible link between one of the most popular medications in the world and a heightened risk of suicide.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Good evening. Katie is off. New violence is threatening the fragile stability of Iraq tonight. Iraqi security forces are battling Shiite militias for control of Basra, the country's main oil hub. At least 56 people have been killed. In Baghdad, meanwhile, U.S. diplomats were ordered to stay inside as Shiite insurgents continued to fire rockets into the green zone. And the Iraqi government slapped a curfew on Baghdad as thousands of Shiites there protested the Basra crackdown. From Iraq tonight, here's Lara Logan.
These are the militiamen who are taking on Iraqi security forces in Basra for a third straight day. Followers of Muqtada al-Sadr, the powerful anti-American cleric whose picture is pasted on this captured Iraqi army Humvee. There is no sign here of the soldiers or police Iraq's prime minister sent to reclaim this important oil-rich city. And residents told CBS News by phone that Sadr's Mahdi Army militia now controls several districts. The crisis is spreading fast, from gun battles in southern cities to a rise in attacks against the U.S., targeting soldiers and the American embassy inside the heavily fortified Green Zone. Tens of thousands marched in anger on the streets of the capital. All this is dangerous for America's frontman, Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki, who can't afford to lose this fight. He wants control of his country's economic lifeline. It's from Basra that 80% of Iraq's government revenue comes. But it's also on these streets that neighboring Iran exerts its most widespread influence inside Iraq.
We know that Iran has played a role in the south that has fed much of the insurgency, much of the militia groups that have broken away from Muqtada al-Sadr have turned to Iran and depended on them for the financing, equipping, and manpower necessary. Much of that then has merged its way up into Baghdad.
That makes the battle for Basra seem more like a proxy war between the U.S., who's backing the Iraqi security forces, and Iran, who's backing the militiamen fighting them. What U.S. officials won't admit to publicly but say in private is that this fight has been long in coming.
I don't care. Move that way.
Because their British allies who had control of the south failed to stop Iran themselves. Neither the U.S. nor Iran is looking for all-out war right now, but they don't seem to mind using Iraq as their battleground. Harry?
Lara, Muqtada al-Sadr has said that he is ready and open to have some sort of conversation or talks about this. Is there any way Nouri al-Maliki, the prime minister, will engage him?
Well, it certainly doesn't look like it from the Prime Minister's public statements today. He was using language like, there will be no retreat, we will continue this through to the end. So he's not giving himself a whole lot of room for maneuver. But this is politics, and you can't rule anything out.
Lara Logan in Baghdad, thanks. As the violence in Iraq grows, President Bush insisted today that U.S. and Iraqi forces are making progress.
We've broken the grip of al-Qaeda on the capital. We've weakened the influence of Iranian-backed militias.
The president also praised Prime Minister al-Maliki for going after Shiite militias in Basra, calling it, quote, a bold decision. On the presidential campaign trail, Barack Obama has long said he'd start withdrawing U.S. troops from Iraq shortly after taking office. In a one-on-one interview here in New York today, I asked the senator if that's really possible with Iraq so unstable.
When the violence was high, John McCain and George Bush said we can't leave because the violence is high. When we reduced the violence, they said we can't leave because we've made progress. This is part of the problem. That we have a lot of tactics that have been effective by General Petraeus, but no overarching strategy. There's no clear definition of success.
Let's talk about money. Bear Stearns has been helped out a lot by the Federal Reserve. Should the federal government be in the business of bailing out companies that were involved in the subprime mess?
Well, this was, I think, slightly different than a bailout. We had a situation here where a run on one of the investment banks on Wall Street could have created a domino effect that could have plunged this economy into an even more severe crisis than it's already in. So I wasn't privy to Bear Stearns' balance sheets, but I think the idea that the Federal Reserve has to step in emergency situations is something I wouldn't challenge.
Was the federal government too late on this?
This is something that a lot of observers recognized, that this economy was over-leveraged, that there were no serious guidelines governing these mortgage-backed securities, that mortgage brokers were initiating the kinds of loans that people would never have a chance to pay back, but everybody was looking the other way because everybody was making money.
Several people have written that even in the best case scenario, Hillary Clinton's chances of getting the nomination for the Democratic Party are about 5%. When is it time for her to leave?
Oh, I think that is something that she's got to make a decision about. I have always said that I'm prepared to, go and contest every single state.
If you are the presumptive candidate here, isn't it time that you say, with some severity, that we can't go on like this?
Well, no.
At the cost of losing the general election?
I don't think so. I think that what's going to happen is that as soon as the nominee is determined, whether that is 2 weeks from now or in early June, that there will be some bruised feelings. People are going to have to patch things together. And we Democrats have to get our act together and win this election.
I'll have more of my interview with Senator Obama tomorrow morning on The Early Show. Now to disturbing questions about the widely used asthma and allergy drug Singulair. Nearly 31 million prescriptions were written for it in the United States last year. It's Merck & Company's biggest seller. But Singulair can have serious side effects. As Kelly Wallace reports, the FDA wants to know if suicide is one of them.
So I went upstairs and I found my son.
Kate Miller's 15-year-old son Cody had killed himself just 17 days after starting the allergy drug Singulair.
It's the end of our world. And we didn't know why, because this child was a perfectly normal, healthy child, never had a problem.
His mom now believes that Singulair cost him his life. After Cody's suicide, 3 others, and other reports of serious depression and anxiety, the FDA announced it was investigating a possible association between the allergy and asthma drug and behavior and mood changes, suicidal thinking, and suicide. Singulair has been marketed by drug maker Merck for 10 years. The company says in over 40 clinical trials of Singulair, there were no reports of suicidal thoughts and no completed suicides. However, reports of tremors, depression, suicide, and anxiety have led Merck to update prescribing information for this drug 4 times in just the past year. Dr. Marianne McKellis has gotten calls today from concerned patients. She's now writing letters to every patient who takes Singulair, urging them not to overreact.
They should continue their medications unless they are, individually experiencing a major change in their mood.
The FDA says no definite link has been established and that it will take up to 9 months to determine if any regulatory action is needed. In the meantime, Harry, the agency says doctors should monitor very closely any patients taking the drug.
Kelly Wallace, thanks. Many travelers at some of our biggest airports went nowhere today as Delta and American Airlines grounded more planes for inspection. Delta has canceled about 275 flights through tomorrow morning. American scrubbed more than 450 flights in the past 2 days. And other airlines may be next. Here's Nancy Cordes.
The cancellations caught many passengers completely off guard.
We're supposed to fly from Chicago to Tucson, 3 hours, and it has been 2 days almost.
The cause? Re-inspections affecting hundreds of flights as the entire industry scrambles to comply with a new FAA audit.
The hardest hit areas are the hubs of these airlines. So for American, it's Dallas and Chicago O'Hare, and also for Delta at Atlanta.
Passengers aren't the only ones who are upset.
Travelers are being inconvenienced for no reason whatsoever.
Aviation expert Darrell Jenkins argues the inspections aren't urgent and could have been done overnight over a period of weeks.
Instead, the FAA's seen fit to inconvenience thousands of travelers all across the United States in order to show Congress that from time to time they can indeed be tough.
Especially after a recent incident that embarrassed the agency. Southwest Airlines discovered 46 of its planes were overdue for inspection, but continued to fly them anyway, with the knowledge of FAA inspectors. Now, the FAA has ordered an audit to check if other airlines have failed to comply with its directives. The one confounding travelers today concerns wiring in the wheel wells of MD-80s and 88s, which are mainstays of the American and Delta fleets. It's taking hours to re-inspect each plane, and longer when they have to make a fix.
I'm glad they're taking the planes out of service if they have a problem with it.
Delta and American say their operations should be nearly back to normal by tomorrow. But experts warn other airlines could run into the very same problem. Nancy Cordes, CBS News, Newark, New Jersey.
There is much more CBS News ahead, including renters now caught up in the foreclosure crisis. But up next, guns on campus. This student says it's the best way to prevent a massacre. In Kentucky today, a 37-year-old University of Louisville student was arrested after she brought a gun on campus. There was no violence there, but the police later found the bodies of her 14-year-old son and 10-year-old daughter at their home. The woman has been charged with murder. Gun violence killed 37 people on college campuses in the U.S. last year. 9 have been killed so far this year. Some say the best way to protect themselves from guns on campus is to carry one. Mark Strassman is in Salt Lake City tonight.
In Thomas McCrory's morning routine, he gets his books and he gets his gun. He's ready for school.
Good, how you doing, man?
McCrory's a junior at the University of Utah. In 2006, the state Supreme Court allowed guns on college campuses for anyone with a concealed weapons permit, the only state where that's allowed.
You carry it on your hip? Yeah, I carry it on my side, underneath the jacket.
McCrory, a ski patroller, was paralyzed in a 60-foot fall. He felt vulnerable. Then came the massacres at Virginia Tech and Northern Illinois University. He started carrying a gun.
It's a comfort to me knowing that I would have a fighting chance if something like that ever happened here.
Now lawmakers in 9 other states are debating whether guns belong on college campuses. Georgia is one of them.
How many kids must die before we realize firearms and law-abiding hands actually save lives?
But the University of Georgia's police chief says more guns would make it harder to spot the real threat.
There's only going to be split seconds there, and I could see innocent people being shot by the police.
A lot about this scares critics, starting with the image of armed college kids at a Saturday night keg party. And Utah's law says nothing about marksmanship. Students carrying a gun legally may have no idea how to use one.
This is how you hold a firearm.
But many in Utah are eager to learn.
They're just evil people out there, and I don't know. I just hope. I just want to be safe.
McCrory practices every week, a growing trend in his undergraduate business school.
At any given time, on any given day, there's at least a dozen people within 100 yards of me that are armed.
Now students in other states want to arm themselves with the right to return fire. Mark Strassman, CBS News, Salt Lake City.
The Pentagon said today it will count every U.S. nuclear weapon in the next 2 months. This follows the embarrassing mix-up that had the military sending nuclear missile fuses to Taiwan by mistake. China has agreed to let a U.S. official visit Tibet tomorrow for the first time since this month's violent anti-government protests. In Tibet's capital today, Buddhist monks interrupted a press tour, shouting that Tibet is not free. Chinese officials had brought foreign reporters there to show that the city is now calm. Coming up next, you don't have to own a home to lose one. How the foreclosure crisis is leaving renters out in the cold. On the CBS News Money Watch, the government's latest checkup on the economy shows it was anemic in the final quarter of last year. It was growing at an annual rate of just 0.6%. That is a huge slowdown from the nearly 5% growth of the third quarter. The slowdown started, of course, with the housing market, and falling prices there led to the current foreclosure crisis. As Ben Tracy reports in tonight's Hitting Home, it's not just owners losing their homes, but renters as well.
Papa. Adriana DeHarce and her husband Jesse thought they knew the rules of the renting game.
How have you been as renters?
Oh, we've been good renters. You know, we paid on time.
What they did not know is that the owner of the home they've been renting near Oakland, California, wasn't paying her mortgage, and the bank foreclosed on the property at the worst possible time.
We're shocked. I mean, it was just horrible. You know, about to deliver, you know, have another baby, and they're going to auction off the house.
This basically says you have 30 days
Yeah.
to leave. What are you going to do?
I don't know.
38% of foreclosures now involve rental properties. That's at least 168,000 households nationwide. In states such as Nevada, Illinois, and New York, the numbers are even higher.
In most states, foreclosure itself automatically terminates a tenancy.
Judith Lieben is a housing attorney who says most banks won't deal with renters.
The banks try to get them out as fast as possible, and this happens everywhere.
And so brokers representing banks often offer what's called cash for keys, a payoff to get a renter out quickly.
The offer was $2,500 to leave.
Within how long?
14 days.
That's pretty quick.
Yeah.
Oakland City Attorney John Russo says many renters get a much worse deal.
The person gets a notice from the bank saying, hello, your rent is now $10,000 a month. If you can't pay it, time to leave.
And this is often what happens. You end up with an abandoned, boarded-up house that drives down property values in the neighborhood and ironically can make it even harder for the bank to sell. With her new baby now moved in, Adriana is still waiting to learn when they'll have to move out.
You don't even own a property and you're being faced with foreclosure. I mean, it's horrible.
Especially when you've played by the rules and still lost. Ben Tracy, CBS News, Oakland, California.
Coming up next, the New Jersey grandmother behind a lot of the glitz and glitter on Broadway. Finally tonight, they say the neon lights are bright on Broadway, and indeed they are. So are the costumes. Someday we may tell you who puts the bulbs on the marquees, but not tonight. Tonight, Richard Schlesinger tells you who puts the beads on the costumes.
There's nothing very glitzy about Cranford, New Jersey, except maybe for the lady who lives here.
Anything that has glitter, I probably have my hands in it.
This is all my work.
Bessie Nelson is 77 years old, and her hands have touched countless bugles and beads and sequins.
There are thousands and thousands on a garment.
And so you
thousands.
And each one plays a role in making Broadway's costumes sensational.
She walks into our room, and you know she's a...
You've seen her work in shows like A Chorus Line and too many others to name.
Is what you do glamorous?
I think so. Don't you? Get my beads.
Costumers line up to get on her schedule.
You don't get the glitz and glamour of Broadway without the beaters. I mean, how else do you get the sparkle? And people pay for sparkles.
And sparkle doesn't come easy. It is painstaking work.
Individual stitching with one pushing up, one bugle at a time, one bead at a time, one sequin at a time.
But Broadway isn't the only address where Bessie does business. She's also done a little work for the folks at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Here's Hillary's sample.
That's her work on a then newly minted First Lady, Hillary Clinton. Her inaugural gown, beaded by Bessie.
My eyes were glued. That's my gown she's dancing in.
Mr. Michael Jackson. And she also beaded possibly the most famous single glove in America, the one on Michael Jackson's hand.
This was a reject, and they were going to throw it out, and I said, oh, no, that was on his hand. I want it.
Great stars have great pride.
She's made a little history while making all those clothes, and she surely made a name for herself.
To see that glitter come to life with the stars, and they sing in it and they act in it, there's nothing like it. Number 3 bugle.
And that's why Bessie Nelson will keep beating and keep being the pride of Cranford and the toast of Broadway. Richard Schlesinger, CBS News on Broadway.
And Broadway will honor Bessie tomorrow with a Lifetime Achievement Award. That's the CBS Evening News. For Katie Couric, I'm Harry Smith. I'll see you tomorrow on The Early Show. Good night.